Welcome, stranger. Welcome, stranger. That's an expression I picked up from an old video game, probably about 20 years old. I always liked that expression. When I was making my channel, I thought I'll just open with that. So, moving along, a viewer on my channel was watching my new playlist, which is a teaching playlist called Classroom Videos. And I don't know whether he was watching the Nikon FE or FM, but he left a comment and asked me to make a video on the OM1. And I always love it when people ask me to make a new video, which is going to take me 2 to 3 days to complete. It's such a joy. So I looked through my computer that night, and I did find an old folder with some images of an OM1. It was pretty old, and the images weren't that great, but I thought I might be able to use it to make let's say a quick video, classroom video. Nothing like I could make 6 months or a year from now. It was dedicated, but possibly just make one to get by. So threw about half of them away, cleaned up and kept 8. And I think I'm going to make a halfway decent video of the OM1. This will be the OM1, the first one, not the OM1N. And what else? I guess that's about it. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started with our first image. This is an image of the complete camera torn down. After I service cameras and I am ready to put them back together, I usually take a picture of everything. It's been serviced and cleaned and ready to put back together. Sometimes I do it for the customer, and sometimes I do it for myself. Where shall we start? I guess we'll start here in the bottom. This bottom plate on the camera is in pretty good shape. I don't see any really heavy dings around the edges anywhere. And I do see some scratches right here, and maybe one right here, but all in all, this camera has been well taken care of. It's in good shape. This is the black model, of course, which is rare and highly sought after by people or collectors. Same way with the top cover over here. No dings along the edges, which is good. It's one of the things I watch for to determine the condition of a camera before I start working on it. And I don't really see any scratches, heavy scratches, anywhere on the camera. I see some scratches up here where the nut that holds the top down, but that's not even visible when it's installed. And this is an old photograph. You can tell because the numbers up here on the ASA wheel are not quite sharp. Probably shot at high definition, where now I take my pictures with a quad. I forgot now what it's called. This is the body here, which we're looking up here. I'm not going to discuss these parts because I've got other images of them that are full frame and close up and much better, has more detail. And we'll discuss them when we get to that. Over here, looks like the mirror may have some scratches on it, which for a camera this old, that's not unusual. Going up here to the top, this prism here that I'm pointing at, nearly all the OM1s, the prism coating is damaged by foam that they put on the camera. Of course, they didn't know these cameras were going to still be around in 40, 45 years, however long they've been here. What time did they make these? What year? I think 75 is when they released them. I know I bought one in 75, so must have been 74, 75. And I always end up having to replace these prisms because they're always bad. And I have to get them out of an OM2 or maybe a PC model, OMPC, or something else. But normally the OM1s, the prisms are just ruined, and I can't use those. It adds to my expense because then I've got to track down another camera. Over here, not much to see in the tray except this accessory flash shoe. Most cameras, they built the flash shoe into the top cover, but on the OM1 they made it an accessory so you could put it on the camera or not, your choice. And the reason I did this is the OM1, the feature of it, the idea behind it was to make it a real small camera, kind of like a rangefinder. And these accessory shoes would stick up and take up too much room, break up the outline of the camera, add weight, that sort of thing. So if you needed a flash shoe, they had them that you could buy, but it wasn't built into the camera. And it had to be taken on and off as you needed it, or I guess you could leave it on the camera if you intended on using it and didn't mind. Anyway, that's pretty much for this particular opening image, and I guess it's time to move on to the next slide. Okay, we're at our second slide. And you're probably asking, well, why are we looking at a film door? I want to see the camera. Well, most people that have seen my videos have already seen this once. They can fast forward over this part if they want to, but I always have to assume that there's somebody who's been a beginner, let's say, or a first-time visitor to my website, and they haven't seen this. And it's so important that I have to inform all people who are interested in film cameras to watch for this. Now, I've just circled here the pressure plate, which the film is put in the camera, and the leader is stretched across like so. And as the film goes across, the film's got a plastic back, and it rubs against this pressure plate. And the film is plastic, and this pressure plate has a paint on it. It's probably baked on. It'd be really hard to get it off. But a camera that's had a lot of film shot through it, the film will eventually scratch up this pressure plate. And it's not a camera that you want to buy. So you always have to inspect your pressure plates before you purchase a camera. And I'll show you here. I pulled this out of my stock here. Get rid of that. And it's excessive. Most cameras are not going to look this bad. I don't even know what this film back goes to. I just saw it and I thought that would make a good example. So I went ahead and brought it over here. So, you kind of have a visualization now of what you're looking for. You're looking for a pressure plate where the film has gone across it. I don't even know which direction. This is the hinge here, so I guess it'd be the direction it would go. Canister sits over here. Film goes across like so. And as you can see here, it's scratched it up pretty bad, a lot of places. And it's something that, this is not a camera that you'd want to buy. It's had so much film shot through it that means that all the rollers and the levers and gears inside probably are worn. And it's just be like buying a car that's got 100,000 miles on it. It'd be better to pass this camera up. So it's just something to be aware of. It's telling people to look for scratches, and showing them is different. And this way you kind of know what you're looking for when you buy a camera. Check the pressure plate. It's the only place I know on a camera where you can pretty much check the wear of a camera. It's maybe the wear or the history. A camera can be beat up on the outside pretty bad, but it may not have had much film run through it. But this camera has had a lot of film run through it. It may look beautiful on the outside. It may have been, the owner may have kept it in the case, and so it just looks gorgeous. But you can open this and check the pressure plate to know immediately that a lot of film has gone through it. Sometimes scratches won't go from top to bottom. Sometimes they're kind of localized. Like they'll be on one side, maybe down here, or maybe up here. But the rest of it will look good. You never know. You just have to look it over and decide for yourself whether it's a camera that's you want to purchase. Okay, let's move back. Here's the one I was just showing you. As you can see, I don't see any scratches myself in this slide. Even down here where it's bright, if there are scratches, they would show up here. I see a little bit of, it's not even a scratch there. I see a smudge in the corner there. I don't know what caused that. But anyway, you get the point. Back again, scratches, no scratches. When you go to a camera show and you're thinking about purchasing a camera, or you're buying one from somebody you know, or maybe somebody you don't know, always check the pressure plate. You don't have to tell the owner that that's what you're checking. There's no use causing ill feelings or to hurt somebody's feelings. Just be sure and check the pressure plate before you purchase the camera. Okay, let's move on. Okay, we're at our next slide. And what are we looking at? We're looking at the mirror cage and the OM1 from the back. There's not much on these OM1s. They're made pretty simple inside. And this is not that good of a picture, but it'll be good enough for this video. If you look right here, and I'm going to see if I can find it. There we go. Yeah, that's your self-timer. The whole thing is like it's made out of brass. Self-timers, all cameras had them. Minoltas, Nikons, Canons, Pentax. But they looked to me like they weren't even made by the company. Maybe made by a third party. They count down generally from somewhere from 1 to 5 to 10 seconds, and they trip the camera. You trip the charge the self-timer, and then trip it, and then go get in front of the camera. And when you wanted to take a picture of yourself, or say your family, and you wanted to be in the picture. So there's not much to these, but occasionally I would get one in that was not operating, or it was operating really slow and it wouldn't trip the camera. And so I would go ahead and pull the mirror cage, and you have to pull the mirror cage of nearly any camera to get to one. And there's always only 2 to 3 screws holding it in place. Very simple. It's not part of the camera. It's just bolted in. And you move those screws and you pull it out. All the gears have a little pivot point. Here's one, here's one, here's one, and here's one. And this I'm not sure about. That could be one. And you can see the gear here. You can see a gear over here. You can see a gear here. Once you pull it out, you put a drop of oil on all these little pivot points, top and bottom. And then you get your air source, in my case would be an air gun, and you blow the excess oil away. You don't want to leave oil on parts because it'll draw in dust and dirt, and eventually it'll will clog the item you're trying to oil, and it'll stop working. So once you oil something, be sure and blow the excess oil away from that part. So let's say I had it out of the camera, and I oiled all these points. Then I would charge it manually, and each one's going to be charged differently, so I can't advise you on that, but it'll be obvious that you'll charge up the whole thing, and you'll trip it, and it'll wind down. And if it winds down, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, it's probably going to be okay. And then you can put it back in the camera, just bolt it back in, and then when you reassemble the camera, you can charge up your self-timer and see if it'll fire the camera. 9 times out of 10 it will. There's nothing really to go wrong with these self-timers other than the fact that it's been 40 years and they need oil at those pivot points to be working again. It's a very crude item. There's nothing precision about it. And it's just made for torque. It's got to have enough torque to trip the camera. So that's its whole purpose, is just to push the plunger down and fire the camera for you. And usually the timing can be 5 to 10 seconds. It's never exact. You never know. You can see here that, see that red? These screws here have they've put sealer on them so they won't back out. Self-timer, it vibrates when it's timing down, and I can't imagine anybody using a self-timer that much, but eventually these screws will get loosened back out if you didn't have sealer on them. You don't want to undo these, by the way. Just leave them alone. If you undo them, then all these gears are going to fall out, and you're not going to know how to put them back together properly in the proper timing. So don't, when you're moving the camera, make sure it's over here or here. It'll be obvious. They're usually very large. They screw into the body. Don't be undoing these silver screws here at the top, which I did back when I was a beginner and messed up real bad. I thought they had to come out to oil it, and so I took it off. This whole plate here on the top came off, and of course everything fell out. I never got it back together. I found out real quick just to remove the whole unit out of the camera, and then to oil it and then put it back in. Okay, go ahead and stop here and then we'll move on. Okay, we're on the next slide. Image, slide, whatever. And it's the top view of the OM1 mirror cage. And it's even set to 1,000, which it should be. And we're looking down at galvanometer, and we're looking down at the switch. It was kind of defective, I guess you'd say. And so, where shall we start? Well, we're going to start with the galvanometer. I'm going to point out some things on it, point by point. I can't cover these cameras on these classroom videos all in one video. There's too many parts on the cameras. They would get real long. You would get bored. So through each video, I point out things that hopefully I haven't shown you in other videos. And so you'll have to go through multiple videos to kind of pick up on a tip here and there to see what is inside the camera and what it does and if it's working properly, those sort of things. That's the way these are going to work. So what shall we start with here? Let's start with this right here then. You see that little tab? It kind of sticks out. Kind of strange how they stuck it in there. It's just stuck in there and bent. Olympus was that way. A lot of their construction inside the camera is unconventional compared to some cameras. I'm going to move back here. Here's the tab again on this image right up here at the top. You can see it kind of sticks out there. And also while I'm here, here's the galvanometer, which turns left and right if you're looking down from the top. And over here is the housing that holds the galvanometer. Galvanometer has to be held in place so it can pivot. So that's what I wanted to show you. One thing I won't be showing in this video, as long as I'm down here, I'm showing you this string right here. You see that string there? And it goes here, goes around this pulley right here. Here's a spring that's pulling down on this pulley, tensioning the string. String goes up. There won't be any images of the string or how its function in this video because I covered it in another video very thoroughly, and so I just didn't want to include it in this one. I need to cover it in the future, but just so you know, I'm not going to cover the string inside the OM1. And if you're new to all this, you say, well, what's so important about the string? Well, in the OM1, the string goes to the f-stops and it goes to the speed control. And then those two strings come up here, and through interlocking gears, they control the galvanometer, and they move it. In other words, you know, when you're changing your f-stops or you're changing your speeds, it makes the, if we're looking down from the top here, it makes the galvanometer go one direction or the other, and the needle sticking out of the galvanometer will go up or down. So when you're adjusting your exposure, that's how the galvanometer moves. It's connected to your speeds through a string, and it's connected to your f-stops through a string. Most cameras are not that way. Most cameras some use strings, but they also use resistor boards. OM1 is unusual in that it uses all mechanical parts. It uses 2 strings. And in another video, I discuss those strings, but I'm not going to show them or discuss them in this video. And that's the point I'm trying to make here eventually. So this tab here on the top cover, if, let's see here, that's no good. Top cover, there is an ASA knob on the OM1. And when it goes down, it up here has a little recess, and this tab goes into it. So if you're changing your ASA to like 100, this tab will be moved left or right as you change this knob up here. And that's how the camera knows what ASA that you set the camera for, because this little tab here has moved. And I thought I would, just go ahead and, I'm trying to think it and make this at the same time. When you take the top cover off and you see this little tab here and you're wondering what it's for, that's what it's for. It controls the ASA for the camera. And it's moved around with this knob on your top cover. So you've taken off the top cover, there's this little tab, and it has to be, by the way, in a certain place when you're setting the exposure on the camera, which I have a video on that also. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Quite often I'm going to have to get rid of the drawings I've got because it gets too clustered. This right here is the adjustment for the exposure on the OM1, which I also discussed in another video on setting the exposure meter on the OM1. You just turn that left and right, and when you do, it turns the whole galvanometer circular in one direction or the other, and it moves your needle up or down. I guess maybe I got that backwards. Maybe that's down, that's up. But the point is that it's also mechanical. It's not electronic. You change the screw, you're moving the cylinder here, and you're moving your needle. And that's this ASA tab does the same thing. It's connected to this cylinder also. So when you're moving it, just like when you're moving your adjustment, when you're moving this, you're rotating your cylinder inside. And I hope some of that makes sense. Anyway, moving along. We got to move along. This right here is the housing for the galvanometer. The galvanometer is aluminum. It's right here. The housing is brass. The galvanometer can't just, for instance, on a Minolta, the galvanometer is bolted down. This can that I was showing you here is aluminum. Can has 2 screws in it, and it's just bolted. It does not move. On the OM1, it does move. It goes, like I said, in a circular motion, either left or right, to move the needle inside it in the viewfinder. And so for it to rotate, it has to have something holding it that it can rotate in, and that's this right here, this brass housing. Here's a screw that holds down this brass housing. Here's one right here. You say, okay, good. I wish I had the students here so I could actually talk to them. I'd love to have a classroom of about, 15 students. That'd be so great. I don't know how I'd do it, but it would be nice. So this screws right here are screwed into this plastic top right here. And just so I can warn you, sometimes I show things and sometimes I show you and warn you. These screws here will strip out this plastic. In other words, when you're screwing the screws back down into the plastic, if you go past a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 for how much pressure you're using, you will strip out these screws into the plastic, and then you've got problems. Sometimes I've used oversized screws. Sometimes I've used a little bit of contact cement and put them in there and hope that the contact cement would hold them in there. But anyway, you have been warned. It's a bad design flaw that they made it this way. They should have had something so these screws wouldn't strip out, but they do. So why am I telling you this? Moving along. All this is to show you right here. I'm going to go this way and then over, and then you see that I'm drawing around? That's a piece of copper. And that copper completes the circuit of the galvanometer to the body of the OM1. From the battery, it gets voltage from this blue wire that I'm drawing up here. Blue wire goes across the top like this over to a circuit board. But that's it. Good cameras will carry both wires. They'll carry the hot and the negative, positive and negative. But on the OM1, they just carried the one blue wire. I forget whether it's positive or negative. Not important. I just repair these cameras. So we've got our meter here, our galvanometer, and it's electronic, and it's moving your needle up and down, and the can up here is also rotating around. So it's a combination of both. In other words, the meter is controlling the needle, but also the position of the meter. The position of the galvanometer is also controlling the position of this needle. And even I'm getting confused here. But anyway, they're both controlling this one little thing. Your exposure is all dependent on this one needle and where it's located. You've got two forces moving it up and down. The electronics and the rotation of the can here. And the can is controlled by... the position of it is controlled by the speeds and the f-stops. The electronic part here is controlled by your photocells, which there's one photocell here, and I don't have enough picture here. Let's see if I can go back here and show it here. Okay, there is a photocell here and a photocell here. And counting on the light that's going up through the prism and hitting those photocells counts on the signal or the current that goes to this blue wire to your galvanometer. I've never had to really think about how it works. I always just fixed them. But I guess that's as good an explanation as any. So, where was I 5 minutes ago? I probably need to reshoot this. I don't know if I should or not. Here's your little copper contact. And this copper contact touches this, when the screw goes in right here, it sandwiches this support, this housing for the galvanometer. It's your ground. And then down right here, you'll see something kind of bright and white. That's your camera body. What is happening here, counting on the direction of the current, the circuit goes up here from the body to this copper spacer, and then goes over here and then touches this housing right here. And then this housing touches the galvanometer. I never did like that system, but that's the way it works. The reason that's important is if there's a break anywhere along here, the meter stops working. Now this wire here, it never breaks. I've never seen one of these blue wires go bad. It goes over to the circuit board, it's attached, and that's it. It works. But I have seen many times where this right here, this brass spacer, and it's very small. I've showed you it goes underneath this housing here, and it just lays in here, and a screw goes on top of it. And well, I would over 100 of them come in. If the meter's not working, that's one of the first things I check. Is I take this screw out here, and I take the screw out that goes right here, and then I take this copper, whatever it is. I call it a spacer. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm going to try to draw it here again. It goes like that, and then around and hooks, and goes over here and down and up. When you pull it out, it'll be about that size, and it'll be about that shape. And it will be tarnished, of all things. Not corroded, but tarnished. I don't know how to spell tarnished, but with a T. It's copper. I mean, it's exposed. Olympus didn't plate it with gold or anything else, and so it's exposed to the air, or at least there's a break. There's no current now going from here to here. And so the body, and when you say, well, where's the body go? Body goes back down to the battery, is where that goes to complete the circuit. So if you know a little bit about electronics, and you don't need to know much because I don't know much about electronics, that is a common problem on the OM1. And that's why I'm pointing it out. That's all this business about the galvanometer being aluminum and the housing being brass, and this blue wire has been all just to tell you this one thing. If your OM1 is not working, first thing you do, you need to take out this spacer and clean it. I've done it over and over and over. I loosen the screw here. I take this screw out. You can also take this one out. I just loosen it. You slide the spacer out of the camera over here, and I usually get a Dremel tool with a wire brush, and I brush it until it's nice and shiny copper again, and then I coat it with a contact cleaner, and then I put it back. And many times that'll fix the camera. And that's why this one session, all these arrows and me talking, rambling here is trying to tell you so you kind of understand. Any repairman that makes a video on YouTube can tell you, well, pull this out and clean it and put it back, and it'll probably fix your camera. But when you watch videos like that, you don't really know why or what's happening or what you're doing. You just know that you need to clean this contact, and that doesn't teach you anything. You have to understand a little bit about how cameras work so you can fix them. If you know how things are supposed to do, and where the current's going and where it's coming from and why, sometimes you can fix a camera without somebody over there telling you, and you figure it out yourself. It's like a puzzle. A camera repairman, we don't know. We have to understand how the cameras work to fix them. I want to tell you more, but it's a bad habit of mine. I want to cram 45 years of what I know into a 10-minute video. So we're going to leave the galvanometer, now. Clean this little spacer here, which connects the housing to the body and the housing to the galvanometer, because you may just have a broken circuit. And the blue wire here is fine. You can just leave it alone. I've never seen one go bad. What else can I show you while I'm here before I leave and not bore you to death? Up here I showed you the adjustment. What I didn't show you right here is the lock. You have to undo this lock first before you make an adjustment, or it will not move. You see this whole thing here, this plate that the adjustment goes into, goes around. I don't know if it goes all the way around here or not, but get rid of that again. As you can see here, the adjustment is not really attached to anything. In fact, it's not a screw, it's a cam. If you look here, you'll see that the cam is riding against this here and this right here. And it moves this direction, or it moves it that direction. You can screw this all day long and it's not going to ever tighten or loosen because it's just riveted in there. It's just a cam. This over here, though, is not a cam. This is an actual screw that's screwed into something underneath, probably metal, and it locks this in place once you get it where you want it. In other words, once you get your needle where you want it, if you've used my a meter exposure video, watched it, know how it works, and you have adjusted this and got your needle dead center where you want it, you need to tighten this. And again, don't get aggressive. Just 2 or 3 is enough. You don't want to tighten it more than that on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, I'm going to take just a really short break here, and we'll continue with this slide. Okay, this is my second go. I was into this video, and the B-1 bomber over at the airbase decided to test its engine. Had to start over. Okay, here we go. Here's the switch on the OM1. It's right here. You can see it's got a clear plastic top on it there. Very bad design for the OM1. In fact, so bad that on the end they got rid of it and replaced it with a much better one. But you might get an OM1 that has one of these, and it also, people would say, well, I'm turning the on switch, but my OM1 is not turning on. Well, this is I showed you over here that it could be that this ground tab or what a spacer or whatever is tarnished. It also could be over here, and it's the contact right here. You can see where they touch. Here, this side here stays stationary. It does not move. This side here is pressed inwards until it makes contact. Get rid of those so you can see. Again, this one here moves, and it moves this direction until it makes contact with this one right here. And how that's done is right over here. You'll see kind of a stud. It's round head on it. When you turn your switch on the top of the camera, it presses against that. And when it presses, it moves this wire here. I say wire. This switch contact this direction so it can make contact. So what happened? Well, the switch has the same problem as this over here, and that it tarnishes. I don't remember now if it's was plated or covered with anything or not. I want to say it was not, but I can't remember right offhand without going and getting a camera and looking. I mean, I've worked on hundreds of different cameras, so I can't remember every camera and which ones the tips are coated and which ones are not. But this switch here is what this part's all about. It's what I'm teaching you here. So what do? Well, there's no way of telling before you clean it if it's a problem or not. So what you do is see this plastic top here. If you'll look right here, you'll see that brown stuff. That's just glue. Here's some more of the brown stuff there. It's glue. And here's some brown stuff here. It's just glue. So what you do is normally what I do is I will get a dull knife. And on this end or on this end, I start working it up and pushing up. Not hard enough to break it or crack it, but to work it up. And then I get it off the camera and and then I scrape off the glue, so because I've got to put it back down. Then I go in here and I clean this side and this side with alcohol. And if I can't tell you how bad yours is, leaning back in the chair, I need to stop that. Yours is tarnished. So sometimes well, let's see. Be hard to explain. I keep getting in situations where I can't explain. I've got a brush, and on the end of it are some abrasive, I think they're glass, but they're very fine. They're like hair. It looks like a paintbrush, but on the end, these they scratch metal. They're hard. And that's what I use. And I will stick that brush in here, and I will brush the contacts on both sides until they are bright and shiny again. Now, you're not going to have one of these. I think they sell them on Amazon. I forget what they're called. But you can get just a little bit of, 400 grade sandpaper that will work just as well. I don't like using sandpaper on contacts because it removes metal. I prefer to use like a contact cleaner. I'll say that again so nobody jumps on me. You always want to clean your contacts first with contact cleaner if you've got some. And if you don't, then you can use some sandpaper, but it must be like a 400 or like an 800, because remember, you're removing metal with sandpaper, and it's not a good idea. This brush over here doesn't remove metal. It just scratches a surface. And that's the difference between using this brush that I use. I don't even know what it's called. I've had it 40 years. It came with a bunch of extra tips, so I've never had to buy another one. But anyway, getting back here, rambling, that's what you want to do. You want to remove the plastic cover and clean those contacts. And then you want to come over here, take out your screw here, take out your screw here, pull this out. I use a Dremel tool, although I suppose you could use sandpaper also. This is just copper. There's nothing really special about it. It's not a contact point. It, in the sense that it's not contacts and a camera. So just use some, whatever you want to use, really. Just make sure you get it down to the copper. And best to treat it with some cleaner of some time so it won't tarnish over again, at least not too quick. There's some things out there that you coat contacts with that will help retard the tarnish from happening. Okay, what about down in here? No, you don't touch anything here, and you don't touch anything here. These contacts just go into this right here, just plastic, and they're soldered to this circuit board right here. And then the circuit board is connected to the wires. Here's a yellow wire, here's a blue wire, and I don't know what else, but there's some resistors and things down underneath it, but it doesn't have like capacitors or ICs or anything like that in it. It's just a circuit board for connecting wires and contacts throughout the camera. This looks really bad here, but OM1s are nasty in that way in some sense. The foam that runs the prism, here's your prism. Nearly all the prisms in OM1s are ruined. The bracket that comes up here and holds the flash accessory has foam underneath it. It gets, you just have to see it. It just disintegrates and it gets gunk all up here, and it flakes, and that's the reason this looks so bad. And I'm just drawing everything. If anybody opens an OM1, they'll see what I mean, in the sense that the why the prism usually deteriorates right here along the edge. When you're looking through your viewfinder, it usually you'll see some stuff here and you'll see some stuff here, and you'll know that the foam that was right here that was underneath this bracket that I was telling you about. The bracket's bent. It's not straight like this. It's W-shaped. Goes across the top. I know that Olympus didn't know this would happen, or they would have prevented it. But and the sad part is that it's so close to the prism. If they had just moved it back a little bit further, the prism would have been okay. But the plastic eyepiece is here. There is it over there. And when they put the foam across, here's the prism starts right about here, I think. Part of that foam touched the prism here on both sides. When it did, it attacked the mirror coating right here and destroyed it. And so on all the OM1s, they've got the mirror coating destroyed along this part here. And when you look through the viewfinder, you see it. So I end up having to replace all these viewfinders because of that. Now up here, it's there's not foam. That's a piece of plastic right there. And here's the bracket that holds the prism down. And then they put this, like I said, this plastic underneath it. And that does not react with the prism, and it does not hurt the coating. But the foam that they put over here under the flash bracket did react with the coating on the prism and did run it. And I probably need to stop. I think I've covered enough, given you enough information. In a roundabout way, I showed you over here, you got to clean that. What do you call something that connects to two parts before? I mean, normally you'd use a wire, but that's not a wire. That's just a piece of copper metal. Anyway, and then you've got your contacts here, which corrode very quickly and very bad. There's no foam or anything in here, but they do corrode. And so when you turn on your switch and this gets pressed in, your camera does not make contact, and it does not turn on your meter. And on the N model, they replaced the switch. And it was that bad that people were getting that much trouble and complaining and getting them fixed that they did replace it with a better switch on the N model. And this is a mirror cage that I actually finished, I think, before I reassembled it. And the reason I know is because that's my foam that I put on the mirror cage there and there. Do I put, when I put the bracket back here, get rid of that again, you might wonder, well, okay, the screw here for the bracket, here's the other screw for the bracket. When you put the bracket back on, do you put foam underneath it? No, I do not. I just leave the bracket there. I guess the purpose of the foam was in case the camera was dropped, it wouldn't damage the wires underneath it here. You know, they would get pressed down, and the bracket might get pressed down and clip these wires. But what I wanted to do was protect the prism in the future. I wasn't worried about the wires. I've never seen any of these wires clipped because of the bracket being shoved down. But I have seen hundreds of prisms destroyed because of that foam. So when you put your camera back together, I'll leave it up to you. When you put the flash shoe bracket back on, you can put foam under it or not. It's up to you. Okay, I spent way too much time on this slide. Let's move on to the next one.